This is a response to a YouTuber who goes by the name of Essence of Thought. Essence of Thought recently made a video regarding Deuteronomy 22 verses 28 to 29. I suspect his video was prompted, at least in part, by a discussion he and I had via PMs. I have placed a link to his video in the description box. Be sure to check it out, and while you're there, check out his other videos. He has a lot of good things to say and is worthy of a sub. This response will probably appear strange to you and potentially unpopular. The position I'm going to take isn't one that I typically do. Those who have followed me for a while know that I am very critical of the Bible, especially passages dealing with the atrocities of the Old Testament. So it may seem unusual that I'm going to defend the Christian position in this video. I'm not doing this for the sake of being a devil's advocate, but because I believe the traditional skeptical interpretation of this passage is incorrect. Some of you are probably saying, that's not your problem, that's a problem for Christians to address. Well, I disagree. If we require theists to present compelling evidence, then shouldn't we be required to do the same when we make a positive claim? My intent in making this video isn't to attack Essence of Thought personally. He seems like a good guy and he has a lot of really good things to say. Instead, I'd like to use this video to demonstrate how critical thinking can be used when evaluating arguments regarding Scripture. In his video entitled The Bible, A Case for Rape and Advanced Counter-Apologetics, Essence of Thought states that Deuteronomy 22 verses 28 and 29 mandates that a rape victim marry her rapist. When one reads the verse from the New International Version, it's quite easy to see why Essence of Thought initially made this claim. The New International Version says, "If a man happens to meet a virgin who is not pledged to be married and rapes her, and they are discovered, he shall pay her father 50 shekels of silver. He must marry the young woman, for he has violated her. He can never divorce her as long as he lives." The New International Version, however, is the only translation that uses the word rape in this passage. More reliable translations, such as the English Standard Version and the New American Standard Bible, don't use the word rape, but instead couple two actions, seizing and sexual intercourse. This more accurately reflects the original Hebrew, which uses the word tafaz and shahav. The New American Standard Bible says, "If a man meets a virgin who is not betrothed, and seizes her, and lies with her, and they are found, then the man who lay with her shall give to the father of the young woman 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he has violated her. He may not divorce her all of his days." The Hebrew word shahav means lies with, or, in this context, to have sexual intercourse. Essence of Thought and I both agree on this. The point of contention, however, is whether or not this sex was consensual. The Hebrew word that has been translated as seizes in the New American Standard Bible is tafas, which means 1. To lay hold of, seize, arrest, catch. 2. To grasp in order to wield. Wield, use skillfully. Essence of Thought argued that the second definition applies only to objects and not humans. Consequently, it can be discarded from the discussion. I'll accept his conclusion here. Now, if the definition of tafaz is to lay hold of, seize, arrest, or catch, what does it mean when coupled with the act of sexual intercourse? Could it mean rape? Yes, it could. However, that's not really the point here. The point is not whether it could mean rape, but whether it most likely means rape. This is where Essence of Thought and I disagree. Is there enough evidence from the definition of the word alone to know for sure that rape is implied? To lay hold of something seems fairly vague to me, and if something is vague, we need to look at other evidence in order to reach a probable conclusion. In this video, I will lay out 4 reasons why I think Deuteronomy 22 verses 28 and 29 most likely doesn't refer to a rape scenario. Many of these points were discussed in my PM exchange with Essence of Thought. When Essence of Thought's video counters a point I make, I will mention it and discuss why I don't find it compelling. The first reason why I don't believe that Deuteronomy 22 verses 28 and 29 describe rape is because in the same chapter of Deuteronomy 22, we find an unambiguous example of rape that doesn't use the word tafaz. Deuteronomy 22 verses 25 through 27 states, "But if in the field the man finds the girl who is engaged, and the man forces her and lies with her, then only the man who lies with her shall die. But you shall do nothing to the girl. There is no sin in the girl worthy of death, for just as a man rises against his neighbor and murders him, so is this case. When he found her in the field, the engaged girl cried out, but there was no one to save her." Notice that both passages contain the word shahav, which means sexual intercourse. However, instead of using the Hebrew word tafas like verse 28 does, verse 25 uses the Hebrew word kazak. Kazak means 1. To make strong, strengthen, 2. To make firm, 3. To display strength, 4. To make severe, 5. To support, 6. To repair, 7. To prevail, prevail upon, 8. To have or take or keep hold of, retain, hold up, sustain, support, and 9. To hold, contain. Compare that to tafas, which means to lay hold of, seize, arrest, catch. Now both tafaz and kazak can mean similar things. However, kazak obviously has a more forceful meaning. So I must ask this question. If the law of Deuteronomy 22 verses 28 and 29 is intended to carry the same meaning of rape as the law of Deuteronomy 22 verses 25 through 27, then why did it use a different word, a word that is less forceful? Essence of Thought addressed this issue by stating that different words with similar meanings are used interchangeably all the time, and by substituting one word for another doesn't demonstrate anything. However, I disagree with this for two reasons. First, it is obvious that kazak has a more forceful meaning than tafaz, and if the author intended to show force, why would he use a less forceful word? Second, this is a Torah law, not a poem or a story. Now, if it was a story or poem, then the use of different words might be desirable. However, one of the features of laws is that they strive to have unambiguous meanings. If two different laws show the same event, such as rape, doesn't it make more sense to use the same word in both instances? Although it's possible that the author could have used a different word, a less forceful word such as tafas, to describe a rape scenario, I find this very unlikely, especially since the passages are right next to each other. A second reason why I don't believe that Deuteronomy 22 verses 28 through 29 describe rape is because of Exodus 22:16, which says, "If a man seduces a virgin who is not engaged and lies with her, he must pay a dowry for her to be his wife. If the father absolutely refuses to give him to her, he shall pay money equal to the dowry for virgins." As you read through Deuteronomy, you will find that it repeats laws contained in Exodus, usually enhancing them in some way. Deuteronomy was written later than Exodus and means second law. Notice the similarities between Exodus 22:16 and Deuteronomy 22:28 and 29. First, both refer to unengaged virgins. Second, sexual intercourse occurred in both instances. Third, in each instance, money was paid to the father because of the event. This is called the dowry or the bride price. Like with other laws in Deuteronomy, we often see an enhancement to the Exodus law. The Deuteronomy law adds the requirement that the man may not divorce the woman ever. Now, are these the same law? I believe that they are too similar to be different laws. So, if they are the same law and Exodus 22:16 isn't a rape scenario, then neither is Deuteronomy 22:28 and 29. When I presented this to Essence of Thought, he countered by saying that the two laws weren't the same law. What was the basis for his dismissal? One law referred to seduction and the other referred to laying hold of or seizing. But if it's true what Essence of Thought is suggesting, that the later law allowed rape, it appears that we have a major regression regarding the protection of women. In Exodus, sex by seduction resulted in marriage. However, in Deuteronomy, sex by rape resulted in marriage. It would appear that women's rights had decreased during the time of Exodus and Deuteronomy. This, however, goes against the textual evidence we find in Deuteronomy. Because Deuteronomy was written later, it has laws that tend to be more progressive than the laws in Exodus. Now, I'm not saying that the laws in Deuteronomy are good, I'm only saying that they are better than Exodus. A prime example of where Deuteronomy laws are more progressive than their Exodus ancestor can be found in the treatment of female Hebrew slaves. In Exodus, there was an inequality between the term that men and women would serve as slaves. Exodus 21:2 says that male Hebrew slaves could only serve a maximum of 6 years. After that, they were to be set free. However, Exodus 21 verses 4 and 7 indicate that the same term didn't apply to women. Female Hebrew slaves were slaves for life. Now, by the time Deuteronomy was written, this law changed. According to Deuteronomy 15:12, female Hebrew slaves were no longer slaves for life, but shared the same term as male Hebrew slaves, a maximum of 6 years. Here we see a move toward equality. Again, it's not equality, but an improvement in the rights of women. When I told Essence of Thought that Deuteronomy's laws were more progressive than Exodus's, he stated that it's not uncommon for laws to regress. As an example, he cited California, who for a time gave out same-sex marriage licenses, but later revoked this. Yes, this did happen in California, but does it mean that it happened in Deuteronomy? It seems to me that in order for Essence of Thought to effectively dismiss my objection, he would need to show textual evidence of laws regressing within the Torah. As I have already demonstrated, women's rights had begun to improve in Deuteronomy by reducing the life term for slavery down to 6 years, the same as men. Now, if the law of Deuteronomy was more progressive regarding Hebrew slaves who were women, doesn't it seem unlikely that the law would regress by allowing women to be legally raped? Now, is it possible that the law regressed like Essence of Thought suggests? Sure, it's possible. But again, that's not the question we are trying to answer. We are trying to find out what is most likely. It seems highly unlikely to me that the law would have improved women's rights in one area only to reduce them in another, especially around a violent act such as rape. Additionally, Essence of Thought has offered no textual evidence in Torah law to demonstrate anything different, only anecdotal information regarding current U.S. law. A third reason why I don't believe that Deuteronomy 22 verses 28 and 29 describe rape is because of the use of the phrase, "and they are discovered." This is a strange phrase to include if the law is describing rape. By referencing they, the passage implies there is something mutual and consensual going on between the parties, that they are both responsible. If this passage was describing rape, then shouldn't it say, "and he is discovered," as the woman wasn't doing anything wrong? But it doesn't. It says, "if they are discovered." This provides another point that makes rape unlikely. A fourth reason why I don't believe that Deuteronomy 22 verses 28 and 29 refer to rape is because it would create what I describe as the rape loophole. Consider this. Let's say that a Hebrew man sees a woman and decides he wants to marry her. Therefore, he approaches her father to request permission. However, let's say that the father denies the request for whatever reason. Well, it would seem that this man would be screwed, and not in a good way. He has lost the chance to marry the woman he wants. But that's the way things are. The father has the right to determine whom his daughter will marry. Now, under Essence of Thought's interpretation of this passage, the man no longer has to abide by the father's decision. Under the rape loophole, in order to marry the girl, all the man has to do is rape her. Because marriage is a requirement, the man will ultimately get what he wants, and both the girl and the father are screwed, one literally and one figuratively. Not only would this law not protect the girl, but it would fail the father too. Does it make any sense that the Torah would implement a law like this, a law that would provide more protection for a rapist than an honest father? I think it's unlikely. Essence of Thought claims that Deuteronomy 22 verses 28 and 29 definitively describe a rape scenario. He's not saying that the passage might describe rape. He is saying that it absolutely describes rape. Now, since he has made the positive claim, he bears the burden of proof. But what evidence has he offered? Only the use of the word tafaz, a word that means to lay hold of, seize, arrest, catch. Is Essence of Thought's claim beyond reasonable doubt? I don't see how it is. To say a man lay hold of a woman and had sexual intercourse with her seems very vague to me. It could mean rape, but it doesn't have to. And when we consider the following 4 points collectively, I think that it is very unlikely that the passage refers to rape. Once again, I'd like to stress that this video isn't intended to be a personal attack on Essence of Thought, but rather an example of how we should evaluate the claims of others regarding Scripture. Please be sure to check out Essence of Thought's channel and subscribe. I'm sure there will be several of you who will disagree with my assessment, so please leave a comment or make a video response. I'm interested in hearing what you have to say. Take care.